Have you ever felt like you're constantly attracting the wrong kind of person in your dating life? Like you're stuck in a toxic relationship loop? Well, today we're cutting through the confusion and diving deep into the red flags that you need to know.
Tired of the bull? Welcome to the Matadora's No More Bull podcast. I'm Lizzie, and with me is Dina. We're the co-founders, and our mission is to empower women to recognize toxic relationships, escape safely, and heal.
Today, our guest is Carla Litto. Carla is a licensed marriage and family therapist with 2 master's degrees in psychology and a successful private practice in LA, California. Carla helps many people improve their personal relationships and transform their lives. Using her keen manipulation radar and egomaniac detector ability, she is known as the Tell It Like It Is therapist. She cuts right through the bullshit to help her stuck clients get unstuck. Carla is happily married with more cats than kids, and in her downtime, she enjoys practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, watching stand-up comedy, and eating pizza. She has just released her book titled Outsmarting Egomaniacs: How to Respond to Narcissists and Master Manipulators. Matadoras, welcome. We are so excited to have Carla Litto. And she is a marriage and family therapist, and she's going to help us to understand how to recognize if you might be getting involved with a narcissist. Now, obviously, some of us have narcissists and toxic relationships in our family tree and places that we just can't help, maybe at work. But we're going to talk specifically about more of a romantic type relationship. I'm sure that many of us have been in a dating relationship and had some little pauses about who this person was. But I think we need a little more clarity. And I know Carla, being this amazing author and this renowned expert on narcissism and those behaviors, I think she can give us some excellent insight on what to look for if you might be getting into a relationship with someone who has narcissistic tendencies. So, Carla, thank you so much for being here, and take it away.
Thank you for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here. So we're starting with, what are the telltale signs of a narcissist? Well, first, let's just kind of briefly describe what a narcissist is. They're self-absorbed, pride-protecting, empathy-lacking, greed-driven individuals who hurt other people to protect their fragile egos and maintain their status as superior, perfect, special, or amazing. That kind of sums it up. It's taken literally from my book somewhere just to kind of cover as much as I can and as few lines as I can. So one of the most obvious ways when you're in a relationship with someone, and first of all, it's not ordinarily something you can detect right away. Sometimes you can. If they're very narcissistic, you could see it right away. Some narcissists are very skilled at presenting as charming and also presenting as caring and interested in you in the very beginning. So it might not be obvious at first. When you get into a relationship with someone who focuses exclusively on themselves and constantly talks about themselves. But more importantly, when you bring up something that you want to bring to their attention when they've hurt you or something happened that just didn't sit right with you and you bring it up, that really tells you a lot about a person's emotional maturity and their ego, because a narcissist can't hear any of this. A narcissist cannot take in another person's experience. So as soon as you bring up what they perceive as a criticism, and it might be some kind of constructive criticism, they can't tolerate hearing that they are anything less than perfect and that they're in the wrong in any way, shape, or form. Even both of us are in the wrong, and this is where you're in the wrong. Nope, I'm never in the wrong. When you have that kind of conversation where they shut it down and they either kind of shame and humiliate you for bringing it up, or turn it back around on you, or deny that that happened the way you say it happened, or any of those things, basically manipulate you the moment you try to have a real conversation about your feelings about something they did. That's when you know that you're dealing with someone who is narcissistic. However advanced they are in their narcissism, that is narcissism, because the chief trait of narcissism is a lack of empathy and an inability to self-reflect. That's why they can't change, because they won't look at themselves, and they'll do everything to avoid looking at themselves. So I think that's the biggest one.
I love that. That's actually excellent. And boy, that really does define some relationships I've had in the past.
I'm sorry.
I know, right, Lizzie?
Almost a little too well. It's like, yeah, I felt like a bobblehead with a lot of understanding. And yeah, I empathize anybody that's in these situations. And that was a really well definition.
Oh, thank you.
So,
Yeah.
Carla, if these people, which I mean, and I know in my situation, and of course, Lizzie and I were married to the same narcissist, I know they can fake it for a while, right? And just really act like, they care all about you, and they can even act really humble. But do you think there's a certain amount of time that they can only fake for so long? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think in general with relationships, people are putting on their best self. They're showing you, as Chris Rock says, their representative, not them. When you first get to know someone, you're not dating them, you're dating their representative. And that's very true with people in general. So that happens for about, I don't know, the first 3 months should be a glorious honeymoon period. And then 3 to 6 months, you might have your first kind of like pickle, little squabble or negotiation. And 6 months to a year, you're really starting to kind of learn if this is a relationship that you think you can stay in and that could sustain, that could last. At about the year mark, if this is a relationship that can last. And that's like the typical kind of like evolution of a relationship from dating to like settling into the relationship. So what that means for a narcissist is that up until you settle in, they're really kind of presenting what they want you to believe about themselves. Narcissists live in like a fantasy world where they're like amazing, successful, brilliant, powerful. So whatever kind of narrative they want you to believe about them, that's what they're feeding you. And it's usually what they detect you need, or it could just be their like favorite narrative about themselves, like what they need to believe about themselves. They need to believe something about themselves, and that's what they're trying to present to the world. When they know that they have you, when you settle into the relationship, when they have their hooks into you somehow, that's when they see you falling in love, or maybe now you're exclusive, or maybe you moved in, especially if you get married, and especially if you are maybe pregnant with their child. All these kinds of vulnerable things that have you tied to them where they feel like you're not going anywhere, that's when you'll notice the behaviors seep out, because they can. They only do what they can. And so the more they kind of like have you, the more you're going to see the real version of them where these behaviors seep out.
So, with that being said, how do you advise your clients as far as the length of the relationship? Because I know that in our case, our mutual narc like pushed us to get into a serious relationship very, very quickly. And both of us, I mean, me, it was 3 months, and Lizzie, it was a couple months also, right?
I think mine was about 5 months from start to finish before I married him. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
but I mean,
so good.
he was getting you pushed to be serious really quickly.
And then he also did that with wife number 3, but she kind of held off, I think, 10 months before she married him. But it's interesting because it's like with that, they immerse themselves so quickly into your life. It's amazing. And it's like they mirror you, your interests are their interests. And it's amazing how that kind of twists so fast. Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like there are always kind of signs, even though they're putting on their mask, right? Their false mask. There are signs that because, you're falling in love and because they're matching up with everything that you want in a partner, the signs are there, but it's easy to kind of like ignore them or sweep them under the rug. That's really common. I mean, the chemicals in our brain when we're falling in love kind of make us do that. So it doesn't mean that like, you're not a good, judge of character, you're not smart or whatever. It's just like that's what happens when you're falling in love. But those signs are there. So I bet with both of you looking back, you can kind of see like what was presented to you that you didn't really pay attention to. Am I right?
You
Like,
are
do
so
you think?
right.
Okay.
Even in the 3 months that we dated before we married, there were I mean, 3 months, that's nothing. But there were so many signs that this guy was completely dysfunctional. And he wasn't one of those like sitting around bragging about himself and making himself look great and trying to be the center of attention. He was more of the covert type that,
Okay.
was just charming and humble and kind and those kinds of things. But it was the lie after lie after lie that even after 3 months started to uncover, and the double life type of behavior, that people would come to me and say, I saw him holding hands with this other girl in town, and just weird things like that kept cropping up that Of course, he was like, "Are they what? What? No."
And the
So, it was that there were so many circumstantial strangeties surrounding him. And I know strangity is not a word, but I really like it right now. I'm totally going to use it. But there were so many weird, funky things surrounding him that I should have been like, this is not normal for somebody to have all these crazy things that keep popping up about them and their past and who they are.
Right. So when you're presented with those things and so you don't want to look at it or believe it because you're falling for this person. But so, I mean, I would recommend when these things come up to just pay closer attention and to slow down the relationship, to just slow down the relationship when these things come up and investigate what they are before you get closer. If there's something weird, if there's a strangity, I love that word. I'm going to use it now. Right? Like, then slow it down and examine what that is. Like, really look into it. And it doesn't mean you break up with him. It doesn't mean, oh, maybe I shouldn't love him. Love him and date him, but keep like an eyebrow up, right? Like keep your eyes open and pay attention and don't put yourself in a situation where you're stuck before you get to the bottom of that weird thing.
Wow, that's perfect. That's actually perfect. And maybe if you do slow things down, because there's so many strange things that are just giving you, that cognitive dissonance, right? Where your heart's like, something seems up. But they keep telling you that you're wrong and you have no proof. Mm-hmm. So then you feel like this insecure, needy, suspicious jerk. But you're right. You could stay in the relationship and then just slow it down and really give some time and some pause and kind of maybe separate your head from your heart a little bit, right? Is what I hear you saying.
Right. Right.
Now, I'm going to kind of change a little bit here. For the person that may have a concern of a family member or loved one, and they see some of those red flags in the relationship, because we know, I could think of myself, and I'm not saying I'm right, but a lot of us have been here that are here now, kind of trying to share the news. But how can someone, a loved one, like I said, or a family member, go to someone when they see these red flags? How can they approach them that may help eliminate some of their defensiveness over the person because their head is so out the window, or possibly make it so that they may listen to?
You're talking about if you have a family member who might be narcissistic and shows some of those traits, how do you approach them so that they won't be defensive?
Actually, I was meaning if someone else was dating someone that could be narcissistic traits. Sorry, Carla. Could be dating someone with narcissistic traits, and the other people see it that love them. But
how do you tell your friend or your family member, I think the person you're dating might be a narcissist because I've been down that road. I can smell it a mile away, and you got your love goggles on and you can't see it. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, love goggles. Right? I like that. That was good.
Okay. Yeah, that's a tricky one because like we were talking about, love brain makes you really defensive, like defend that person and you can't see it. So the last thing you want to do is something that we might be tempted to do, which is just like force it, like jam it down their throats, like, right? Like, believe me, I know this. I've been there. You don't know what I've been through. I have a PhD in narcissism now, even though I never went to school for it. Listen to me. Boom. Like, it's like, no, that's not going to work. So you have to approach it with finesse. Always when you don't want a defensive reaction, you have to approach it with finesse, right? And so I guess this is like giving you guys the inside scoop on how to put your therapist hat on a little bit, where you guide someone towards seeing something for themselves without telling them, look, this is what it is, but like asking all of the questions that help the light bulb go off in their head. So it might look like, or you ask them how you feel about things that you've noticed. Did you see what he was doing right there? Yeah, how did that make you feel? Like, did that upset you? Like, I would have been upset. Were you upset? Okay, yeah. Does that happen a lot? Oh, it happens a lot. Well, how do you handle that? Oh, he doesn't listen to you when you bring it up? Wow, that must be a tough relationship to be in then, if like when you bring things up it doesn't, like what do you think of that? What do you think that means? Or have you dated men like this before? Oh, it's different from anyone you've ever dated. Okay. He must have a lot of redeeming qualities then for you to put up with something so abusive. Would you say it's abusive? Am I going too far saying it's abusive? Right. So you're dancing around it. You're saying it, but you're not just like, listen, this is what it is. I know. You're saying, this is what I think it could be. Do you think so? Because you need them to join you in your insight, not play devil's advocate and defend against your insight, which is what they'll do if you're coming in hot with your analysis of this guy that they're madly in love with, right? So that kind of way of just asking them questions and then gently touching it and then seeing how they respond to each time you kind of like put it in front of them. And if they get really defensive to even that gentle kind of suggestion, back away. Back away. Because you want to be the friend that they'll come to when they see it, because they know that you know and you've been supportive. Nobody wants to go to the I told you so friend or like the know-it-all friend. So present yourself in a way where you know you're approachable when they see it, but you're not trying to force feed them a narrative that they can't accept before they're ready. If that makes sense.
That was perfect. I love that. Yeah. I always try to go through scenarios of what I think I should say to somebody because I've been there. And I think the way you said it in the beginning of, hey, I've got this PhD without having this PhD kind of thing, but that was perfect.
Yeah, and you can even say like, it just made me think of it when you said, because I've been there, you could even say something like, gosh, that reminds me a lot of my last relationship. Remember my ex? It reminds me so much of what I went through. Do you see what I mean? Or you know what I mean? Like, see if they can see what you see when you bring in that comparison. But just always being careful of not insisting that that's what it is if they reject it. As soon as they reject it, go, okay, I guess it's not that then. But they'll let you know when they figure out that it is,
Yeah. Yeah, because it'll eventually escalate to the point of no return for the relationship. Yeah.
And it plants a little seed too. I know for me, if someone has, told me something that, I immediately got defensive over, it just planted a little seed to where it maybe upset me, but I had to stop and think about it at some point, when I was ready and not as vulnerable.
Right. Planting the seeds. That's a good strategy.
Yeah. So what other signs, Carla, could somebody look for, when they're in a relationship with somebody to give them that a little bit of a pause? Or maybe even, are there any signs from, if someone just goes on a first or second date, are there blaring signs that
So is this
you
where we
would say
get right
run?
into love bombing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's do that. Let's do love bombing. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And so, a lot of people talk about and seem to know that narcissists are known for love bombing in the beginning of a relationship. And they do. But I also want to say that just because a guy is love bombing you, it doesn't mean he's a narcissist. Actually, a lot of reasons that men or people, women too, love bomb, sometimes it's just a poor filter where they're actually like they like you and they just are not they it just comes out like they just aren't good at saving things for later dates. It might just be that impulsive person who goes home kicking themselves. Why did I talk about marriage and kids on the second date? What's wrong with you? Like, oh my God, now they're never going to want to talk to me again. It might be that person. They might have ADD. They might be a love addict, right? Not a narcissist, but a love addict where they think they're falling in love all the time. There are a lot of issues and a lot of personalities and things that could look like love bombing or make someone love bomb besides narcissism. So I just want to put that out there. But what the narcissist is doing when they are love bombing is they're grooming you and they're getting you attached to them and they're making you feel so loved and so special so that like you're riding in on your high horse and you don't know what knocked you off your horse the moment they turn and kind of like start what they call the devaluation phase, which is like when they start to treat you differently, when they feel criticized because maybe you're bringing up something they said that, felt off or didn't add up or wasn't respectful or whatever, and they don't want to be criticized. And so then things will start to kind of change. And so we were kind of talking about like that sort of evolution of a relationship, right? The love bombing is happening to get you hooked on them so that the dopamine in your brain is like, oh yeah, I want more of that yummy love and affection. I want to feel like I am like the most amazing, beautiful woman on the planet and blah, blah, blah. Like the person can make you feel that way. And so it's just a way to create that attachment so that when the rug's pulled out from under you, you're extremely vulnerable and they have total control over you, which is what they want.
So what are some examples of love bombing? Like what could that
Yeah.
potentially look like on a date, first, second, third date, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, like on a first or second date, anyone who's saying that like you're exactly what they're looking for, you're the most perfect woman, like they think they're falling in love with you. They could see themselves getting married and having kids, especially if they know that like you really want kids and you're an age where you're like, okay, I don't have much time left. And they're like, yeah, I really want kids. I think you'd be an amazing mother. Like stuff like that you do not know on the first or second date. So if they're telling you that, they're love bombing you. Again, they could be really impulsive and be like, this woman's amazing, and they like blurt stuff out. But pay close attention, because if you have love bombing is happening, and then other narcissistic things are happening, like he talks exclusively about himself. When you talk about yourself, he's like not paying attention. He's looking over there, he's checking his phone, or he's topping your story with a better story about him. He somehow did it better than you did it. A lot of just self-focused behavior. So when you pick up on that stuff, and then a person who just cannot take any criticism, will not self-reflect, will not apologize, blames other people, and even when you see them doing it about other people. So it's like they could be talking about at work, and it's like nothing's ever their fault. Everything is someone else's fault. When they're the common denominator in all of their problems and bad relationships. Like, you know, when people don't, and their family don't talk to that person and their whole family is toxic. Really? Your mom and your sister and your cousin and your niece and your nephew. Nobody wants to, and they're all troubled. But you're good. Oh, okay. Right. So that should just get you asking questions. Now, of course, it could be a dysfunctional family and they could be the one sane person in that family. I'm not saying that's not possible. I'm saying pay attention.
Right.
Ask more
these
questions.
These signs will start to kind of add up, right? It's, you know what I mean? Love bombing by itself, maybe, you know, distance relationships by themselves, maybe, but it's kind of like making a medical diagnosis. Just because my elbow hurts, you know, doesn't mean I have rheumatoid arthritis, right? I
Right.
have to look at different signs and sort of add up the signs to see if it points to that. So it kind of makes sense what you're saying, because you know, look at all the surrounding signs and obviously get to know this person. And I imagine you'd also recommend getting to know their relationships, their
Yes.
acquaintances, their
They
friends.
don't have close friends and they don't associate with their family. That's a big red flag.
Yeah.
That's a sign. And then getting to know their friends, seeing what they're like, and also seeing how they interact with them. You know, sometimes you can see people putting up some walls around them. Why do they do that? You know, or those people are elusive. So it's like, oh, this is your best friend, but you only see this person once every couple of months. They don't come to everything you invite them to. Okay, why? Maybe they're busy. They could be busy, but also if that's happening with all those other things, like pay attention, you know? So yeah, I mean, it's really important, I think, to get to know the friends and family and see how they interact with them, right? It's kind of like that old saying, like, whoa, well, if they're rude to the waiter, you know, like you're next in 3 months or whatever. Yeah, that's true. But also if they mistreat their mother, if they mistreat other people in their family, you're next also, not just the waiter.
And then also probably bring your good friends in to meet them, right? To really get a clue.
Especially your friends who that you think are a good judge of character. Your friend who's been around the block, those friends, you know, yeah.
Yeah, because those charming narcissists are amazing at making sure that anybody on your really close inside circle thinks they're just absolutely adorable, you know, and gets them sort of locked in on their side. And they use that later, obviously, you know, as a flying monkey and all their little tools in their toolbox. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, with my ex and mine and Lizzie's ex, you know, when I was married to him for 27 years, he made sure that there were certain members of my family that he got in really good with. And, you know, when we divorced, I mean, they still acted like he was, you know, their kid. My mom acted like he was her son, and my uncle acted like he was his favorite nephew, and he would go visit them and they would go on trips and stuff. And I'd be so mad, you know, about that.
Yes.
Now it ended up being amazing because now Lizzie, being married to him after me, knows all my family, and we're like the sisters that, you know,
Yeah.
had different dads, but
That's the irony of when
but
she was talking about the trips that they were
Yeah.
joining our trips. I hung out with her mom while, yeah, being married to her ex. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh my
he would go
God.
see my family and they would welcome him with open arms, and but Lizzie would be with them, and so Lizzie would meet all my family and all that. So I love that now because she and I can go anywhere and she knows everybody in the family, and she was stepmom to my kids, so it's just a crazy thing. But of course at the time, and I finally had to get mad at my family.
You want your friends to be their friends because what they're doing is building their alliance, right? They like to have allies, people on their team, and it sort of like boosts their credibility. So it's like, see, everyone agrees with me. You're the problem.
Yeah, and it hurts you also. I think most narcissists know that their time is ticking, but then it comes to a point where they can use your own people to hurt you. And it gives them superiority that your family, still wants to be with them and spend time with them.
Right, right. It's a way to hurt you. They go
Yeah.
after everybody close to you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, no, but it's an accurate one. It's true to what they do, and I think it's important for people to realize that, if you have a narcissist in your life, if you're in a relationship with one that you're going to divorce, or if you have family members who are narcissists, watch out for them too. Like if it's, your sibling or your parent, they'll go after your friends. They'll try to take your friends, So, they do things like that. Or they'll the other way, like if you're divorcing someone and you have a narcissistic sibling or parent, they'll try to get cozy with your ex, your non-narcissistic ex that you're amicable with, and things are fine with you guys, and they'll try to get, or establish a relationship with them to make sure that like they're doing their triangulation, their divide and conquer. And so from any which angle, you're bringing up something really important about what they do. They triangulate people. And so what happened with you is probably the most common, just because it's usually a partner that you're ending a relationship with. But some people have them in their families too, and they will go after your partner or your ex-partner because that hurts you. And so it can come from either direction and any angle. They're after your friends. So if you know that you have someone in your life like this, protect your close people. Don't make it easy for them to snuggle up to them and feed them a narrative about you or about themselves that's going to make them accessible to each other when you try to end that relationship.
That's a really good point. Something that
Yeah.
I think that just almost happens organically and we don't think about it. Yeah. Wow.
You want this person to be part of your family, and you want them to be loved by everybody, and you're
Right.
proud of them,
That's the problem in the beginning, is that you're trying to integrate them, and then and then you realize it's too late, and your uncle or whoever thinks that he's amazing, and you're trying to cut the cord, and
Yeah, when
they're
you're the
not
one that
safe.
you're the one that made, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
even if those people had paused or kind of thought, he's kind of rude to you or whatever, you smooth it over and you make them believe that they're great and they're okay, because that's just what we do,
'Cause
right?
that phenomenon of making excuses for them when you're still
Yeah.
in that phase of hanging on to the relationship. Yeah.
Exactly. So then when you finally get the epiphany, now you're running around trying to undo that toxicity so that this person doesn't just railroad you and take your relationships. And so it is a really strange phenomenon when you do that, because then people in your life are like, well, he didn't do anything awful to me, or she didn't do anything terrible to me. Like, why should I be mean to them?
Yeah, that's a
So
really tough question, because on the one hand, it's, well, they didn't do anything to me, so why should I stop talking to them? And on the other hand, it's, well, this person abused me and you're supporting my abuser instead of protecting me. So, and both sides have validity. Except that, like when you said, well, it's like, why they're thinking, well, they didn't do anything to me, so why should I be mean to them? Nobody's ever asking you to be mean to someone, but we are kind of asking you to stop engaging and participating in a relationship with an abusive human being. So I do believe, and listen, people do, I let people do whatever they do, and I don't want to control other relationships, but I do believe if you find out that someone is abusive and harmful and you know that they were, it's not hearsay, it's not a rumor, you know that they're abusive, why would you want to have your own relationship with them? Yeah, they've never done anything to you, but don't you realize you're next if you keep hanging around them? Like, they abuse people. You want to put yourself in harm's way? You want to expose yourself to someone or your friends or your family to someone who could potentially do these things, because you never know when you're next. And so I think it's foolish. I understand that point. Like, I don't want to play sides. They've never done anything to me, except I think it's kind of foolish if you have the information that this person is capable of real harm to keep participating with them, because it's only a matter of time before they do it to you or to someone you're even closer to than the person you just witnessed it happen to, like your children, for example. Like, letting your children hang around with, an abuser, even if it's just emotional abuse. Like, you don't want to expose your children to something that toxic, right? So, I think it's important to let everyone formulate their own opinion and position. And it's like, okay, you're free to spend time with whoever you want to, but it also affects your relationship with them, right? So it's like, well, if you're going to watch, play hockey with my ex-husband who abused me, I think we're going to have like lunch together a little less often, because I don't want to hang out with someone who is supporting my abuser, right? So it's like, it doesn't mean that you have to cut that relationship off, but maybe don't be as close. You're still happy to hang out at Christmas, but whatever. Like, now I know you're kind of a fool because you're hanging out with this guy,
Well, yeah, and your ex might use that guy or girl to just get information about you. So they can try to lure you back, or they can, just say awful things to you next time they see you, or post things about you. And so, that's a lot of times why they'll keep some of your friends close or your family close. It's just to have a little bit of,
you and spy on you.
yeah, little power, dig.
Yeah, but whatever they do, whatever they think, whatever they say, whatever they find out, it's like all of that falls under the category of, like, you detach from that and you don't concern yourself with what they're thinking about what you're doing. Like, ideally, in an ideal world, you don't want them to know what you're up to. But if they find out what you're up to, who cares? Because whatever they think about is just no longer any of your concern. And they can't hurt you. It always feels like they can. Like, what are they going to do?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they take your friends, which is hurtful, but really, truly, like you said, that's where you just have to
They're
say,
kind of like weeding out the lame ones. I always kind of see it as too. Like, you
Like that.
like, who's loyal and who's sharp when
mm-hmm.
they won't participate with that person. The ones who are like playing along, it's like there's something in it for them, right? Like, because the narcissist is always dangling something, right? So if your uncle thinks he's gonna get some prize, or he's gonna like, oh, I'm gonna let you in on some business deal, or oh, I'm gonna or I have like, there's always something. They think that there's something in it for them, but there isn't, or whatever it is, you don't want it. Trust me. And so, the people who participate, I mean, these are, it's not that they're bad people, but it's like, they're letting you know, like, that these aren't the best people. These aren't the most loyal people or the sharpest people who can see through bullshit. And those are the people you want to have around you. Again, those lame ones, you can still have a relationship with them. You can still be excited to see them on Thanksgiving. But like, now you know that they don't get something very important, that there's like something they don't understand that's very important. And so if anything, just let it inform your new opinion of that person too, rather than wishing that they would behave differently or see it differently.
That's a really good boundaries strategy for sure. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carla.
Well, Carla, any other insight you can have for us and people who are listening that they can look out for, or?
We covered a lot.
Good.
I would definitely say, if you want more information on this type of personality, you can read my book, and there's full of strategies. It's full of strategies on how to communicate with them and how to identify or recognize their manipulation tactics and what you can do about it.
And I definitely want to say it's a must read. I really enjoyed it. I thought there was humor in the way that it was written. It was written very smoothly. I love the dialogue. I will say there are some, cuss words, but I thought it was very appropriate. But, it just FYI, I always like to say that. But yeah, her book is outsmarting egomaniacs, how to respond. This is what happens when you get older. How to respond to narcissists and master manipulations. I just love the title, and I would say it's definitely worth your time and energy to read. It was really good.
It's awesome. Like it makes you laugh. Carla just has a really unique style. She's very herself, and I love that. She's very unfiltered herself, and some of the examples that she comes up with are hilarious. But then by the same token, while you're giggling and reading this and being entertained, you're getting some seriously deep insight on what to look for, and she names everything appropriately from a psychological standpoint so that boy, you really can look deep into the tactics that are being used, what they're called, what they look like. There's examples. Yeah, we highly recommend her book. And, whether you're listening on YouTube or on our podcast, we will have a link for you so that you can go directly and purchase that book, because it's on Audible also. Or you can just, if you're one of those that likes a book in your hand and you can mark the pages
and Kindle too. There's the ebook, Kindle too, if you want to travel with
there you go.
A bunch of books
Kindle.
in your tablet.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep, Kindle, download it on the plane, whatever. But it's extremely entertaining. And even if you aren't with a narcissist or have someone in your immediate family, which who of us don't, but even if you don't, it is still great to read it and just really understand this amount of people in the population that have this issue, and how to be on guard for future relationships and what to do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Carla, it has been such a joy to sit and talk with you, and we just appreciate you taking the time to come and share.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking with you too. Thank you.
We really enjoyed our time with Carla today, and some of the things that we had discussed was recognize early red flags, pay attention to the subtle signs of control, manipulation, and lack of empathy, especially in the initial stages of a relationship. Do not dismiss your gut feeling. Another thing we discussed was understand love bombing. Be wary of intense, overwhelming displays of affection and attention early on. It's often a tactic to gain control, not genuine love. Another one was prioritize self-reflection. Regularly examine your own relationship patterns and vulnerabilities. Self-awareness is your strongest defense against manipulation.
And another one was protecting your boundaries. Learn to say no and enforce your limits. Narcissists thrive on exploiting weak boundaries. Approach loved ones with care is another one. If you suspect someone you care about is in a narcissistic relationship, approach them with empathy and plant seeds of doubt rather than direct confrontation about their relationship. And lastly, seeking knowledge and support. Educate yourself about narcissism through books, articles, and support groups. You are not alone, and understanding the dynamics can empower you to break free.
If you would like to learn more about narcissism and relationships, please go to episode number 42, our interview with Dr. Sam Vaknin, professor of psychology, titled Breaking the Manipulation and Aggression Cycle, where he talks about the warning signs of narcissistic abuse. Thank you for listening, and we hope you have a wonderful day.